Big slurps of coffee,
right?
energy. Here we go. This is the
True.
part where we stall, Christy, and wait for a few people to join us. But
Right.
then I like to ask the really hard hitting questions at this point in that, are you a coffee drinker or tea drinker?
Tea drinker. Coffee, that would be like my like survivor challenge to like drink a cup of coffee. I
Really?
would be out. Like I can't
Just
do it.
don't like it or
Yeah.
don't like what it does to you or
No,
both?
just smells bad, tastes bad. I've tried everything, sweeteners, sugars, milks. I've tried so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just like it's just not my thing. And I didn't drink tea up until about probably 10 years ago ish.
Yeah.
Even that, like I just I have energy. Like, if I need to get energy, I'll like draw upon it and just go through the day. Like I don't need a whole lot, but yeah, I'm not naturally a day person. I get energy at night, kind of
Yeah.
thing. But yeah.
I know. Well, I'm drinking tea today too, so it
Oh, good.
works.
Well,
Doesn't
yeah.
matter.
Cheers.
But
Yeah.
cheers to you.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Yes. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm.
I like to switch between both, but I do love coffee. But I don't know, sometimes I feel like I'm not a real coffee drinker because I don't like it black. Like I could not drink a cup of coffee. So then I don't know, am I like a cream and sugar drinker with a side of coffee or, you know, and I don't even drink cream anymore. I'll use like oat milk. Like I'm hard into the oat milk. I'm really, really good. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it is what it is. It gets us through
Yeah.
what we need to
Just
get it through, right? So
just a warm drink. I like to have a warm drink. Doesn't
it's
really matter what it is. Yeah.
absolutely, it's true. It's that whole piece of that
Yeah.
just getting going.
Good morning, Rob. Good morning, Helen. Oh, Rob said he's with you. He's never had a full cup of coffee.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, whereas Helen's like making a cafe mocha. Nice.
Perfect.
We're just getting extreme here.
Yeah, it's hard. I've been to elders' houses and you know how you be polite and they put coffee in front of you. I'm like, and I at that point, I'm like, oh my, like I'm gonna make it through this. And so it's like little sips. Meanwhile, I'm dying inside, but I'm like, good. Like
Oh, delicious. Yeah. Like, please no.
it's true.
Oh, well. Anyway, as you join Coffee Club this morning, please say hi in the comments and welcome back to another morning. I am so excited to have this guest joining us today. We had a chance to meet online a couple of weeks ago. And I don't know, Christy, it might seem weird, but I'm just like, I already totally adore you. And I can't wait to meet you in person one day.
Right? One of these
So
days.
welcome to our little club. And thanks for having coffee/tea with us today.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for inviting me. It's always good to start the day off with just a nice mellow ease into the day versus which some days are just like chaos. Right at 7 a.m., you're on meetings and making big decisions. So this is
You're like,
nice
no.
easing in midway.
I would rather have chaos to make decisions for meetings at 7 than like 3 p.m. though.
Oh, see, I'm the opposite. I would be more like
3 p.m. is like
I'm more
nap
the
time. Yeah.
nighttime. I can just I'm like energy kicks in probably around 11 a.m. and then I'm like, let's do this. Let's go for the day. Yeah.
Well, and let us know in the comments how you're feeling this morning, because Christine and I were both talking before we went live that today has really felt like a day where both of us, we didn't want to get out of bed. It's feeling kind of slow. And I think that's probably fitting too. We'll talk a little bit more about that in our coffee chat too, like spring makes you feel energetic. And I think the easing of restrictions is making us feel hopeful and energetic, but it's easy to get a little bit overwhelmed by that because we've sort of been in this, I don't know, Christy, what you would call it, but this mode where we really had to slow it down. And so now when it starts to speed up, it's almost like we don't remember how to speed up.
It's true. I feel like I'm just readjusting. Like, I don't know about anybody else on the chats, but yeah, like pre-pandemic, I'm like, I loved being in the office. I was about like, you could go like a million miles a minute, driving between meetings, like multitasking, all these things, like switching up locations. And then boom, having to like switch completely like a 180 to online at home, which I had never been like a work at home kind of person or like, really thought as a thing for me.
Yeah.
And now having to like phase in the return to work, I'm like, oh my gosh, like where did I have the time to like get up, get ready, find all my stuff? Now you need like multiple keys, like house keys, office keys, multiple phones, you need your laptop, you need to move things around. I'm like,
Pants. Yeah.
Right, true, pants, like, you need to look somewhat, like, put together and, like, yet still drive somewhere and
Yeah.
get anywhere. It's
I
yeah,
know.
it's been
How did
different.
you function? So good. But
Yeah.
well, Christy's name first came across my I was gonna say across my desk, but I don't even have a desk anymore. Christy's name came across my life last year as she was the recipient of the Chief David Crowchow Memorial Award from the city of Calgary. And this award is handed out for those who demonstrate leadership skills in building relationships between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal, bridging gaps, showing leadership, doing that kind of thing. And that's where I first learned about this vivacious lady who is on our coffee club today. And you've been working hard in, I think, this kind of work for a really long time. And I guess an award like this, not that you do it for the award, but did it feel good to receive an accolade of that stature?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of surreal, like, so I've been doing this, yeah, like you said, really, really long time. And, in terms of community work and working within in the Calgary areas, where most of my work has been. I'm originally from BC, but lived here in Calgary and Mohkinstsis for many, many years. And to receive this award, I mean, for those that may or may not be from the Calgary area, I mean, the Crowchild family is a longstanding family. It's been in here as part of the signing of the Treaty 7 treaty here in Canada. And for many years and early on in my career, I worked with Chief David Crowchild's daughter, his last remaining direct child, and many of his grandkids that still live here. And to work with her over the many years and just hear stories of her dad, and here in Calgary, Crowchild Trail, which is in Calgary, that's named after Chief David Crowchild, because of his passion about bridging those gaps. That's why the award was created, because he's very much like a bridge gapper, and want to see the future in terms of having that we have to continue on with our ways of learning, of working together. And for many years working with Victoria and others to support the city of Calgary. So in my former job, I worked out of a city of Calgary building, and worked with many of their city of Calgary staff who helped host these events, and was attending many of the events that would go on for this award each year. Get to see all the wonderful nominees that were bestowed this wonderful gift of honor, and never really thinking that that's something I don't really aspire for awards. I'm always like the one that I'm like kind of like I do give in the back seat. Like I'm like, I'll help do everything, but don't
Look at
show me nothing, right? Don't show me no face. Like I'll be in the back seat kind of thing. And yeah, when I got the call from a former colleague at the city there, that the committee had met, and someone had, they had nominated me. I was just honored just even for that piece, that, my current and former colleagues and my boss had submitted a number of things along with some of our elders in the community to nominate me. And to me, that in and of itself was the biggest honor, just to even have them consider myself for that award. And I was like, really, thankful and grateful to that. So I want to know who had nominated me, and want to email and acknowledge them for the gift of their kind words in that. And then a few months later, got the call that I had won the award and was selected. And I was like flabbergasted. I didn't know what to say. And they're like, you won this award. We're going to set up this time to like do this, wonderful, not in person, but in person small event, because normally it's a big public event that'll be recorded kind of thing. But you can't tell anybody.
Like, what?
Like, you don't call me and tell me that and say I can't say anything for like 3 months. Like,
this is mean. This is a mean award. Yeah.
Yeah, it was true. I was like, okay, so yay, but I can't say anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a hard time to keep up, but it was very wonderful, and very honored. Like, honestly, it's one of the most notable, I think, times in my career and my life, that the community has bestowed me with a lot of things in my work here. Obviously being given a Blackfoot name by my elders, and then, and then this, and, all of their pieces that, it just humbles me, to no end, to know that I can help be a part of something in some way. And the work is not mine alone, it's the community. And I just love being a part of helping whatever I can out to make things better.
Yeah. So what is your Blackfoot name?
Mistoy Big C. So
And
that's Crow Spirit.
yeah. Crow
Yes.
Spirit.
So gifted to me by Regin Rose Crowshoe of the Bigani Nation here.
And so what does that mean for those of us who, I mean, we don't really understand obviously we can tell that it's an honor to receive a name like that, but how does that sort of happen? And what does that mean for you when you get a name like that?
Yeah. I mean, depending on the communities you come from, there's different aspects to how you be gifted names. So many of us from different nations, I mean, we may go through different names in our life. So depending on gifts or the talents that we have, a name might be bestowed upon you, or work that you've done for the community, that they might honor you and acknowledge you in that way. Some names are hereditary and passed down to children as they're born. So you may be born into your community with a name given to you from an ancestor. And so I received my name in 14. I'm like, wait, what year is that? 2014. And
blood and after.
Right. I'm like pre-post. I don't know anymore. Yeah. 2014 at an event. And it was at one of our community round dances, which typically some naming is done in a larger form so that you have lots of witnesses to support that honoring. And I was part of a group that used to do a large community round dance here in Calgary at a big community space here. And I remember, we're all running around like mad. Typically, when you're hosting events, you're to the back end and you're all like, whizzing around. Caterers are everywhere, and we're trying to get food out and trying to get things sorted out. And one of my colleagues came in the back and they're like, quick, Christy, like you're needed out here like right away. And I was like, okay, now what? So I'm like trying to like maneuver in my my ribbon skirt, which was thinner, so I couldn't walk very fast. So you're like doing like that, 19 underneath like the shuffle, and I'm like waddling towards the door, and I'm like, yep. And so I come out, and there's a big gym, and there's probably about 500 people in there, and everyone's enjoying their stuff, and I could hear someone speaking on the mic, and as I'm walking along to go up to the front with them, they're kind of looking at me weird, and people are starting to look at me weird, and I'm like, why is everyone like staring at me? And then I started to clue into what the person was saying on the mic, like, this person's a great thing. We're very honored to have Christy here. And I'm like, oh, no. I was like, okay. And so, we went through the whole ceremony to be gifted my name. And, again, a great honor because, you go through the process, and to have that moment. I mean, I'm not one to be super emotional in public settings, but standing there and getting your name from people that you love so deeply, that it's the community. You can see all the people you work with on a daily basis and on different projects with, and you can just see the kindness and the caring that they're exhibiting. And of course, some people are like crying themselves, and I'm like, okay, like. Yeah, and I'm trying to fight back the tears, and I'm like, this is like, no one warned me. Like, now I'm going to look like messy. Like,
I would have wore waterproof if you would have.
Yes, like some preparation would have been nice. So I mean, it was wonderful to be able to have that honor at the round dance, and we've done that for a few people as we've done different round dances and different namings for different stuff, and it is always a gift, right? Because there's that story attached to your name, and people witnessing is very important, so we know who each other are in the community. And I'm just very, very grateful and very proud to be honored and bestowed the name I have of Crow Spirit.
when I feel like you're no stranger to that acknowledgement, because then I decided, I'm like, well, I should probably creep her a little bit more before she comes on. So you also won like a top 40 under 40 award and the Dr. Douglas Cardinal Award. So you're just like, you got a big shelf and you got all these awards. But doesn't that always happen? Like the people who don't strive for them are usually the ones who receive the most because you're doing the most amount of work. Like it's all good, but yeah, you're just like, stop it.
Yeah, I was laughing with a friend, and they were same thing like you were introducing me to a forum, and they're like, I've known Christy for 20 years, and like some people, collect skills and books, and like she just collects awards apparently. I'm like,
like one after the other. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I do have, because so I do have a shelf here that I have them acknowledge them. So there is one beside me in my office here, because you need to display that stuff apparently. And it's nice to have that. Yeah. So every award I've gotten, it's never been something I've expected, which I think is most award situations. Yeah. I don't think that necessarily tell people.
I don't know. People, if they were, they've never said it out loud, because your acceptance speech is a little bit more awkward if you're like, I've been waiting for this. Right. It's about time you've acknowledged me.
3 months of waiting, and it's about time I can say something about this. Yeah.
I was about to nominate myself. Yeah. No. But I love that you have them visually, though, honestly, because those I feel like are great days when you don't feel like getting out of bed or doing the work or bridging that next gap or whatever it might be. You can be reminded that the work matters to the people outside of that shelf, right?
It does. And that's really what keeps my drive going, right? And I think for most of us, that why, when we're asked why we give back to our communities, why we do the things that we love, it's because of that other piece that we bring in, right? And so it's just it is, like you said, it's a good reminder to remain humble and continue to walk the way that our elders and ancestors have created for us to go through our teachings, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think too, obviously within your community, people are really proud of that work that you do. How's it for your family, like being the support team sort of really behind the scenes for you?
Honestly, I think they're the cheerleaders of me. They're more vocal about my stuff than I am. They have been they're my rocks. Like, I know all of us, our families are our root system. They're our grounding. And for me, absolutely, that is 100% true. And in some of these cases, like the top 40 under 40, my mother was the one who, with some others, helped nominate me for that one, and I didn't know, and kind of thing. And it's these bigger pieces that they're just, I think they just have always given me the little boost of confidence that I've needed, like even starting my career in social work. When I was coming out of school, I was working in retail still, and just that nervous step of like going to get like your career job. I was like, oh man, like, do I actually have the skills? Yes, I graduated, but am I actually ready? Like, is this what I want to do? And yes, I was volunteering and doing other pieces of part-time work in social work. And I remember seeing a job in the pit. My mom saw a job in the paper.
Yeah.
Yes, because back in the day, papers.
Yeah. For work. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Looking for work. And she had cut it out and put it on our fridge, and with a big thing saying, you need to apply for this. This would be great for you. And I remember waking up, come upstairs, like get breakfast. And I'm like, looking at it, and I'm like seeing it. I was like, oh, it sounds amazing. But I remember thinking in my head, like, can I actually do that? Like that doubt of like, ooh, like, is that me? And I remember leaving it for like, it was due like a week later. And I remember leaving it for a couple of days, just saying, I'm just like, what, like, you need to apply, to just put your name in. And I was like, I don't know if I can, like, like, should I, is that me? Like, could I do that? And my mom and my retail boss got into cahoots and like basically cornered me at the retail thing. And we're like, you're applying, and this is
what this is going to look like.
And I was like, okay, like, fine. And I actually did get the job. That's where I started with the Calgary Urban Aboriginal Initiative, which really streamed a lot of my passion and community development. And, I haven't really looked back since then in terms of stopping some of that passion of that work. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. What's an example of, like, I think we, on a on a high level, we understand what bridging a gap means, and I think we understand as society why those bridges need to be gapped. But what does that work look like? Like, if we're not familiar with what some of that would be, what is some of the things that you do or have done that is helping these relationships be better?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's such a Western construct, I think, of when we talk about, I mean, English language is very like stagnant in terms of
Yeah.
how things are. For me, bridging is more around just building relationships, right? And creating space where people can come together and just chat. Like, I mean, right now you're convening this space, right? So you're hosting this space for us to connect as a group, even though we can't be there. And it's about building that space where it's safe for us to come and have like difficult conversations or hard conversations or great conversations or laughter, like all of the above, in a way that wants us to come back to still build that network where, you know, as the years go by, I mean, it's really that stronger relationship that you're building between people. And so, you know, over my career, it is about convening and hosting space and doing things in a right way, ensuring that we're following protocol, but also inviting others to learn about what that means, right? So, um, when we talk about bridging stuff, it's about creating space for us to learn from each other. Like as we each bring different gifts to our tables. Like as we're all human beings first, right? So everyone here on, you know, in the coffee club, we're all humans first. Culture and race are a subset of what define us and how we identify with the spaces around us, right? And each of us can understand similar values of, you know, kindness, love, trust, respect. You know, those are things that we can all identify with and come to commonality. How we get to those might be different in terms of some of those story pieces or practices that we do that to show those things. But it's about creating a space so that I have an opportunity to share what I have a gift of, and you have your opportunity to share that gift of. And it's not about finding something that has to replace one or the other. It's about respecting both sides. And so, when we talk about bridging, it's, you know, in my data, you know, well, I guess not day to day, but in the work that I've done over many years, it's things like, so an example would be maybe like more recently for some people, well, we've been seeing in spaces, people talking about like smudging in spaces or buildings. And many people's policies or some people's policies in the past have been very much so you can't smudge in a building because of fire code, right? So when we come in as Indigenous people into space, often it's been over many years until up to recently, we see some shifts, is we want to welcome people to create diversity inclusion in spaces. So we, you know, you think about, you know, like fasting or prayers or other things are allowed in buildings because they don't harm or create against policy,
yeah,
right? But as Indigenous people, if I want to smudge in that space, which would be equal to, let's say, praying or whatever, I would have to go outside and stand outside or be like by the dumpster or wherever to smudge because that's only like that follows policy. And it's like, okay, well, when we talk about policy and breaking down some of the diversity inclusion, like we don't ask everyone to go outside to do that. So if we want to talk about inclusion and equity, well, we either need to ask everyone to go outside and do what they need to do, or we ask everyone to stay inside. Yeah. So it's about having conversation about saying, okay, if it is a policy, and if it is fire code, if that's the reason, depending on your sensors and your systems in your buildings, let's bring those around a table to have a conversation about what is that? Like, why is the policy the way it is? Like, is that based on just because it's always been built that way? Is it based on actual like accreditation aspects? Is it based on OHS? Like, what is it? How do we get to this specific policy in this wording? Let's talk about fire codes and talk about systems and what are alternatives to that. To, you know, and let's talk about what smudge is. So people that have never experienced smudge or understand what smudge is, to walk them through it and actually show them and actually invite them to participate in it in that moment. So they get to see it, experience it, and understand. And so then as a collective around a table, then we can all understand the different angles of this situation versus just the one side of like, if I'm holding up my cup, like you can see this side of the cup, but you're not seeing what's on the back side of the cup, right? So there's different sides to all these pieces. And so it's really about how we bridge some of those conversations and bring people around a commonality to come to an end result. And that's really what kind of like my day-to-day aspect is, I mean, I'm consistently working with my colleagues in our organization to break down our policies. Like, why are they like that? What does that actually mean? How do we change that? To supporting, when we talk about wellness, like there's so many different aspects within like finance departments to your program end to your policies on how you welcome people in your onboarding process to, everything is, Western structure. It's about policy, but we also have Indigenous or other cultural bases too. So how do we find that parallel? So again, we're not overseeding one or the other. It's about, you start with opening remarks, or like our elders would say sometimes gavels. So if you Robert's rules of order in meetings, you have the firmer welcoming. We have smudge to start it. One's not above the other. One's not better than the other. It's about, okay, if we're going to welcome people, it's also light smudge. So if we're going to create safety, I know when we light smudge, I need to show up with my best self. I need to be able to come and speak with kind words and listen with kindness when that smudge is lit, because it's actually putting me into a different frame of mind than coming into a Western construct, right? Coming into Western structure versus Indigenous, I'm constantly having to flip back and forth in how I would respond to stuff. But as soon as smudge is lit, I'm coming with my more authentic self. And I can definitely walk in both worlds because I'm having to ensure that I'm managing both of those pieces.
Right.
Yeah.
When I think the more that we could learn from Western culture into, I mean, to me, the idea of starting a meeting with smudge, and I mean, obviously I don't know a ton about it, but I respect it and love, and I'm like the sponge girl that wants to learn all the pieces. I'm like, yes, let's start more meetings with that. Like, let put us all in a frame of mind of speaking and listening with kindness. Like, why wouldn't we do that? That sounds beautiful. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, many cultures have different kinds
But
of
we don't know,
smudges, right?
we don't know what we don't know, I guess, at the end of the day. But that's the whole point of starting conversations. And one of the reasons why when I first met Christy, I was like, yeah, so I'm hoping that you like me so that we have like 400 conversations, because I think we're already 27 minutes in like that to me. And I feel like I have 1,000 other questions or things I want to talk about. So friends, give Christy some love in the comments so that
bring some questions on.
Come back and help speak, because my whole goal in sort of moving Coffee Club forward is we started as a space just to connect during the pandemic. But then now that we're here, I'm like, well, what else can we do in this space to grow and learn and be better humans? That's my whole thing, is like, how do we be better humans? And so we need to have weird conversations. And I say weird and just because it makes us feel uncomfortable to ask those things. But I mean, I know that I want to have a whole conversation with you about what does cultural misappropriation mean, and how am I doing that without knowing I am? How do I stop but acknowledge and love? Like, we're gonna have a whole coffee club on that, I think, because there's so many things I think that people want to do and they want to learn, but we're so afraid that we'll say the wrong thing. And we forget that if we're coming in with respect and love and kindness, you can say it wrong because the person knows you're trying to learn. Like, there's a difference between just saying it wrong because you don't give a flip, and there's saying it wrong because you're like, help me.
It's true.
Help me be better human. Because, most of us are just really raised in a really sheltered, conditioned lifestyle, and we don't know how to step out of that. And it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think that's part of the beauty of, when we talk about some of this, reconciliation, action, as some of our elders like to talk about, is
I like that.
Yeah, it is very much. It's that was coined by the former chief Atleo and his wife many years ago, and many of our elders have attached or moved that. So like, it is about action, right? And so, that is that bigger piece. Like when we talk about rights, wrongs, like I mean, even for many of our own people, I mean, many of them are still learning some of these shared history experiences, right? And while it's hard sometimes to have the conversation, it's how we come into these spaces together, and knowing that it's going to be hard and it's challenging things that we've heard and that we absolutely believe to be true. But it's always questioning, like, where did that information come from? Who developed that book or those things that we're reading to be as true, right? And so yeah, it's just about coming to a space, like you said, with openness, kindness, and love, and just being open to hearing new things and exploring things on our own to gather more information, right? As human beings, we're about gathering information and making decisions. That's what our brains were designed for.
I always get so, I feel like it's so jarring when people use the phrasing right now of canceling culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, and I don't know what the appropriate thing to say around that outside of in my gut. I'm like, it's not canceling culture, it's learning truth and it's
Mm-hmm.
honoring people. And so it's a mindset shift for us. And we could probably have a whole coffee chat on on that and what those sort of things mean. And I think the good that comes out of the challenge from the pandemic is that people started having more conversations like this, whether it
Mm-hmm.
be from Black Lives Matter to, um, honoring our Indigenous friends and community members and recognizing that all along they've known these unmarked graves were there. And
Mm-hmm.
all of the things that we could dive into. And I look forward to, as Robert says, please come back so that we can have more of these conversations. Because I know Coffee Club, like, even if you're watching this later and not live, like, you're curious too. And so let's learn together so we can be better humans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think that's the best part of just curiosity and conversation.
Yeah. And I always love, my phrase is compassionate curiosity, right? If we approached everything with compassionate curiosity, think of the progress we would make.
Mm-hmm. And it's very, yeah, it is very different. Like I said, sitting in a Western construct, I mean, like I was saying, our English language is very firm in how it's designed versus many other languages in the world that are descriptive, and more pieces. So it is hard. And so sitting in, when we, even pose these questions, some of our knowledge keepers and our elders, and to hear them sitting in group and talking in our language and them trying to like switch and translate it, you can see like the difference, because it is very much like, for those that speak both fluently, they're like, yeah, like I can't articulate it in the English language because it's a much deeper concept that we can't translate into English, right? So they try their best to try. They're like, what's that word and what's the sound like this? And they're like, that's close enough that we can get to. And it is that piece of, like it's just coming back to the relational piece and just how we listen. It is very different when we hear things, and that's really amazing. If you ask me, like any culture, to sit around and hear from a community standpoint on creation stories or life experiences, I'm like, it's so much more richer, and you can just see the energy much differently, which is great. I'm always a big proponent of creating more space.
Yeah, I love that. All right. Well, we'll be mindful of time today because, again, we could probably talk for hours, you and I, Christy. But we'll let people go for today, and we'll to be continued. And so I throw it out to, if you're watching with us now or catch this later, if there is something that comes into your brain of a question that you would have for Christy, or how do I do this better, or examples of how to be better human, how do you start bridging gaps in your community, throw those into the comments and we'll circle back with Christy on these conversations and having more of this and learning together, because publicly now I put her on the spot, she's agreed to just help be that person with us.
Yeah, y'all heard it. I'm in now.
Helen says you're a great mediator. Please come back and talk about these subjects so we can help each other and understand. So yeah, people are saying like more of this, please. Yeah.
Hi, Warren.
Yeah, we even have like Jim's joining us from Buffalo, New York. So we're gonna let's spread the conversations as far as we can. So appreciate you so much and your time and your willingness to help us.
Yeah, absolutely. So good. Thank you for having me.
It's great. Have an amazing rest of your day. I hope it's better than how it started for both of us. But we're out of bed and we've got clothes on, so already a win. Yeah.
Winning. Yeah.
Awesome. Have an amazing day. And everybody, will see you back here Friday morning at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.